Right, so now you can have a better shot of the academy. So as we're going up, let me also, I realized that there was something else I forgot to talk about, and it had to do with the Shrine of Lorthamar there. So, there's another part about the Blood Elves and their history, and also what's going on here, and this will actually come into play later, which is part of the reason why I wanted to hold off and talk about it later, but we can also mention it now. The Night Elves. So, back when they were the Highborn, now Dathramar was actually, he went back all the way back to like the War of the Ancients. That's how far back he went. Dathramar, and the Highborn were part of
I need to target something first.
The Night Elves back then. And the thing to remember, as you have also probably noticed, is that the Highborn that became the Blood Elves were okay with the use of magic. The thing is, though, Night Elves were kind of, how do I put this? They were very against magic, the use of arcane magic, because they thought the use itself was evil. They thought it was awful, it was terrible. When the reality is that it actually wasn't. It was all about how you used it. In fact, he was one of those who argued with Night Elf Society, because Night Elf Society was basically trying to ban it, because they thought just using it was bringing about the evil, demons of the Burning Legion and all that.
I don't have a target.
And he argued that no, it's a tool, like fire and all and stuff like that. It all depends on how you use it. There were a number of them. A tainted arcane sliver. You have found an odd sliver of crystallized mana on the corpse of a tainted arcane wraith. The sliver is different than others, and as you may have seen, in that it is as dark and sinister looking as the wraith that you looted it from. Just holding it gives you a sense of unnatural foreboding. Arcanist Hellion at the gazebo of the Sunspire on Sunspire Isle just might be someone who would have a use for the sliver. But yeah, he argued that the use of arcane magic itself was not bad. It was a tool, and it all depended on what your intentions were to use it and how you used it. But of course, Night Elf Society being extremely elitist and full of classism as it was, and very, just awful and pig-headed, and just, let's just say I've never really had that many nice things to say about Night Elf Society. Night Elf people and civilians, that they're fine. Of course, I've also let it be known that some of their leadership, like Tyrande, I've never, ever liked. And when I hear about some of the stuff and their views, that's why the idea of now is in WoW today, being able to make a Night Elf mage. In Night Elf Society, if you made a Night Elf mage, if this was like, if characters in the game were able to be designed to be able to actually react to what you did. Alright, so here is...
Take heart.
Take heart, your friends will not long mourn your passing. Yeah. This is how he looks. Doesn't it look kind of similar to the Withered that we saw in Suramar with the Nightborn? Yeah. Yeah. Remember, this is also during a time where they are trying to find ways to satisfy their craving for magic after losing the Sunwell as a source for that. And one of the reasons why Kael'thas and them were actually drawn to follow Illidan, because he was like, no, I can be able to help you out with that. I can find a source of magic for you to be able to help just kind of keep feeding that, so that way you don't lose yourselves. And he was actually going to do that until, Kael'thas betrayed him to kill Jaden. But let's keep in mind that only happened because the writers had to come up with something to fix the horrible writing fiasco that they had behind the scenes when it came to Burning Crusade. So, anyways. There's it. It's like that's the only one that's here. I'm gonna hold off and see if another player needs this. Like, hey, if you need this, there you go. There you go. Alright. So, this basically caused... basically Night Elf Society was like at the point where they would want to basically exile you or banish you from their cities and such if you were to use arcane magic, because they thought it itself was a banishable offense. Because how dare you, mess with arcane magic? Don't you know it's evil? When in fact it actually was not. But that's what Night Elf Society thought. So Dathomir and the Highborn were basically, cast out by the Night Elves, which is kind of what led them to making their way here to locate themselves in the Upper Eastern Kingdoms. At least I think I have that right. But that, if you're wondering why they would be here instead of in Kalimdor, that's basically why. Because they tried to argue in favor of actually using it to aid them instead of just not using it, but Night Elves being Night Elves just didn't want to hear it. Well, yeah.
Glory to the Sindorai.
Heed well this warning. Yeah, by the way, we took his head. Heed well, but when you think about it, we're kind of putting him out of his misery. Heed well this warning. Falendrin the Banished is only a symptom of a much larger problem. His demise will solve our immediate concerns, but all Blood Elves share the potential same fate as him if we let our addictions get the best of us. This leads, well, we see other cases of this later on with some other Blood Elves who decide to go to the extreme to try and satisfy this addiction of theirs. Falendrin's head, you are to be commended, Liageneeks. You have succeeded where others like Falendrin have utterly failed. Perhaps you are truly ready to be a contributing member of Blood Elf Society. Your success here means that you are capable of surviving the greater threats that lurk in Eversong. And believe me, there are plenty to face. Yeah, we'll see that when we get out there. Magistrix Arona wanted you to head over to Silvermoon City in order to aid our reclamation efforts there. That is, once you had successfully addressed the situation at Falthrian Academy. You did not disappoint us, Liageneeks. On your way to Falconwing Square, south of here, you should speak with Outrunner Alarian. She's not far from the bridge. The Outrunners take care of shuttling goods between here and the mainland. And since you have proven to be so resourceful, they could use your assistance.
Time is of the essence.
Let's go ahead and turn this in. But yeah, I mentioned the thing with the Night Elves because that's going to be coming up in a bit. You'll see. You'll see.
What business have you?
From your demeanor, you seem to be on a matter of some urgency. Is there something specific I can assist you with? Yeah, I found this. What do you think of it? This is most interesting. And when I say interesting, I mean more disturbing than anything else. Our efforts to reassert control over the Isle in the time following the destruction of the Sunwell has been a challenge. I suspect that whatever foul source is corrupting the Isle is at the heart of it all. This sliver may be of some aid in uncovering what's really going on. You were wise to bring this to me. Take this as a compensation for your diligence. Thank you.
Stay the course.
Alright. Whoops. So now we are going to be heading over the bridge to the area that is basically what remains of Silvermoon. But you'll see. Again, the fact that this area is still trying to recover from what happened when the Scourge came through here is very telling. But I'll be able to actually show that when we actually step outside the city. This actually makes me wish I was using my map add-on to be able to help show that a bit more.
Anaria Shola.
Well, hello there, Paladin. I heard that a resourceful young blood elf formerly in the service of Magistrix Arona might be making their way down here to help us Outrunners out. We certainly welcome the help, especially from someone who has proven to be so competent. I hope that you're interested in running an errand or two for us. It's hard work being an outrunner between Sunstrider Isle and the Falconwing Square. Tighter deadlines, long hours, and worst of all, the wretched. The road south goes through the ruins of Silvermoon. The place is crawling with wretched, ready to kill you for a few mana crystals. Unfortunately, I think that's what happened to the last outrunner that we sent with one of Verona's packages. I see that you're eager to prove yourself. Venture into Dawning Lane and see if you can find any traces of our outrunner.
Keep your wits about you.
Yeah, she didn't get far. The outrunner's belongings have all been stolen with the exception of one package. It seems to match Alarian's description of Verona's package. You take the package and confirm that indeed it comes from Magistrix Verona. Alarian would probably want you to bring it to her. We've got some interesting people in the zone right now. Fortunately, they're not going nuts in the chat. I was worried that the chat was going to be a problem. So far, it hasn't. That's a good thing.
Victory lies ahead.
By the Sunwell, that's the third outrunner that we have lost this month. I appreciate your courage in venturing into Dawning Street. The guards need to keep a closer eye on these blasted wretched. The death of another outrunner is a true tragedy, but it is a risk that we all accept when we take the job. Magistrix Verona at the Sunspire needs to get this package to the inn at Falconwing Square, and she needs it there as soon as possible. We're short-handed, and I don't have anyone else available that can cover for us. I'm not going to lie to you. The path to Falconwing Square can be extremely dangerous if you leave the safety of Dawning Lane. Do you feel up to the task? Sure?
The reckoning is at hand.
So yeah, this is Silvermoon City over here. This, I'll talk about that in a moment, but the area we are going through right now is supposed to be considered the ruins of Silvermoon. I guess of what used to be Silvermoon. Partly because of the divide that's over there. So of course you have now exited the initial starting area and are going to be making to one of the first major areas as part of what's considered still the Blood Elf starter zone, Ebersong. So of course this is now the first hub area that you make your way to. You've got the Flight Master right over here, your first Flight Master.
Anaria Shola.
And in case you're curious, yep, you only have access to one other, and that's the one in front of Silvermoon City, which is like right outside that gate. And then, of course, over here you have some of the other trainers and such. You've got, I believe this is the inn where you can actually go. Yep, and in fact, this is the one you gotta go deliver the package to, and this is the innkeeper.
Your gold is welcome here. Choose wisely.
Welcome to my inn, Paladin. Am I to understand that you have something for me? Oh, thank you. I do appreciate the prompt delivery. While you're here, please make yourself comfortable. If you haven't done so already, feel free to get a Hearthstone and bind yourself here. Using a Hearthstone will allow you to recall to an inn once every half hour. If you ever lose your Hearthstone, simply return to any inn, and an innkeeper will gladly get you one.
Remember the Sunwell.
Go ahead and do that.
Time is of the essence.
Of course, if you join a guild, you can reduce that cooldown in half to 15 minutes, which is reason enough to join a guild.
Anubalore Delana.
A group of wretched recently raided a supply of unstable mana crystals from one of our arcane sanctums. If not handled properly, the crystals could explode with enough force to blow a hole into the city walls. Now, Liageniques, I don't quite care if they blow themselves up while tapping unstable arcane sources, but the whole incident would make my men look bad. So bring me back any remaining stolen crystals that you find. They might still be inside their original crates.
The reckoning is at hand.
So this is where some of the trainers would be. Ah, a wanted poster very early on. Thalos the Hunger. The city of Silvermoon hereby issues a reward for the head of Thalos the Hungerer, a notorious wretched ringleader. He's wanted for repeated crimes against the general populace of Silvermoon City, including the murder of 2 city guards. Report to Sergeant Canron to collect the reward. Plenty of magisters. You see what I mean about how this was something that was very popular amongst the highborn society, the embrace of magic compared to, well, what Night Elf society was telling them they couldn't do. So they basically got kicked out, but they were, well, they probably look back and go, you know what, it's a good thing we left.
Glory to the Sindorai.
The arcane patrollers crafted by our forefathers to protect the city have fallen into a dangerous state of disrepair. They fail to recognize us as their masters and will attack us on sight. Even though they were created many years ago, the arcane cores that power them are still quite useful and valuable to us. I want you to gather these cores and bring them to me so I can put them to good use again. You'll find the patrollers in the ruined section of Silvermoon to the northwest.
Shorel Aran.
Forgive me, I think my throat and voice are starting to get a little sore from doing all this talking and reading. So before we go do this quest, there's something I want to show you. Something that I've been holding off on wanting to talk about. And I briefly showed it to you just a moment ago. So of course, now we exit out into the main area of Eversong Woods. And if you want, you can go over here if you want to head to the main actual part of Silvermoon City. So you'll notice how here it looks absolutely wonderful and gorgeous. And then here. This is the Dead Scar. That's the divide right there between the two halves of the city. This is what I was talking about here. See this? And if you're curious, this goes all the way to Keldanis, where the Sunwell currently is. It goes all the way there. This is what I was talking about. This is what's left over. You can see there's a meat wagon right there. If we continue to go up this, we're going to find remnants of the Scourge just kind of wandering around, because some of them are still here. It's just, this is the small little remains of what's left over. But this is what happened when they marched through here in Warcraft 3. This is what... the fact that this is still here and has never really been fixed, or has been able to actually there you go, right there. You see that? The pillagers right there? Yeah. This is so telling of what kind of damage the Scourge do to an area. And they have still had to try and defend against this for so long.
Our enemies will fall.
The black swath of soil that cuts through Eversong Woods is a permanent reminder of the day that Arthas led the Scourge into our beloved city. This blemish is more than an eyesore, as even today it brings Scourge from the Ghostlands to Silvermoon. Go, the Papaneeks, and give my men a hand in killing the mindless undead that walk down the Dead Scar.
Shorel Aran.
We will be doing that a little later. We're still going to work on this area over here. Oh gosh. I may have to cut this a little short and just call it for a day. May have to get some cough drops or something. Help deal with this sore throat I'm feeling. What the? What is a level 60 Tauren Druid doing here? Bro, I guess just helping his low-level Blood Elf friend. I'll come through here with you, friend, and just kind of wreck hit everything for you. Even though that's not really necessary. I mean, it's not exactly hard for my level 6 character with heirloom gear to handle stuff here. Now, based on what we have seen so far, you could probably tell that the Wretched, even the one we face at the top of the academy, are not necessarily the mindless, mana-craving beasts that we saw the Withered were in Suramar. It's not really the same kind of thing. Just kind of looking for... Ah, there's one right there. I guess we'll just make our way over to the Sky Thalos. But can you see why... I keep hammering this in. Can you see why when people did Suramar, it just kind of reminded them of this area? And it was just kind of like, oh my gosh. And the when we were able to do the Arkandor thing, people were just like thinking that it could actually be applied. Imagine later on, let's say, I don't know, in Shadowlands, if they added a quest line where all of a sudden we were able to actually plant an Arkandor here in Silvermoon and be able to help the oh, of course, Thalos is already dead. Oh, hello. There you are. There we go. That we were able to come here, plant an Arkandor, and somehow be able to get it going in the same manner that I cannot stand the pain, I must find a new source. Yeah. So I have to find those patrollers. It's not from the Wretched that you get them, it's from the patrollers. So I think yeah, those things right there. But let's just say, ever since we did Suramar, many of us have been like, when are we gonna get something like an Arkandor in Silvermoon and help the Blood Elves get cured of their need to have the Sunwell? And it's just not been followed up. But then again, we also haven't followed up on numerous other things, like helping the gnomes take back Nomergon. Why is that evading? Is this thing stuck in the stairs of the building? Okay, I was a little concerned.
I need a target.
Fine. Fine, I'll put you out of your misery, Wretched. It's better off this way.
I need to target something first.
Starting to load up on stuff. I'm gonna have to go back to a merchant over there and unload my bags. Oh my gosh, he has the black war mammoth from Wrath. I hate trying to actually get in there and farm that mount. Especially when you don't have enough of the same faction on the same server. Now, I've heard there are ways to do that with some add-ons that allow you to be able to kind of like join someone else on a different server or a different instance or something, but... But I still hate the fact that you cannot get into that area unless your faction actually controls the area. Otherwise, you're not able to get in the entrance of that raid. And man, that's frustrating.
I need to get closer.
Okay. That one was already defeated. Just have to find one more. There you are. There we go. Level 7. It's entirely possible that I could get to level 20 before we are done with the starter zones. So... Alright. Let's go turn these in.
Yes.
Have you succeeded in gathering the arcane cores yet? Oh, you've done well. With our arcane sanctums not operating at full capacity, these power cores will go a long way in supplementing our needs. I'm pleased to discover that you are at least somewhat competent. I'll give you another task since you seem so eager to prove yourself. This is a letter to Laykeeper Calandis, the Arcanist in charge of the upkeep of the North Sanctum. Go southwest of the Falcon Wing Square and you'll find him. He's a very important person, so I hope that you don't bother him too much with trivial chatter.
We will have justice.
Yeah, that's another thing about Blood Elf Society, or rather certain Blood Elves, is that there is a bit... Oh, look at this. A wretched captive. So here's another good look at a wretched right here. Look at this. Not too far off from what we saw with the Withered, but the wretched seem to have a bit of their sentience still, whereas the Withered basically became kind of mindless, like, I don't know, just creatures. The wretched are basically like devolved versions of Blood Elves, but not entirely. Not to the point where they don't have their sentience anymore.
Victory lies ahead.
Do you have something to show me? Oh, that scoundrel Thalos finally met his fate. Good job, Liageneeks. Things should be quiet with the wretched for a while.
Death to all who oppose us.
Our enemies will fall.
Did you retrieve the stolen goods yet? Excellent work. Besides the constant threat that the wretched represent, I also have to deal with all kinds of fictitious reports of Night Elf sightings. Though most reports are unfounded, one recent incident demands further investigation. The West Sanctum, one of our primary energy sources, has suffered a terrible malfunction, and rumors of Darnassian sabotage are rampant. Travel there and deal with anyone that looks suspicious. Report back to Laykeeper Valania, who watches over the Sanctum.
Keep your wits
So this
about
is where we are able to, we get the quest of, hey, yeah. Okay, never mind. I read that wrong for a moment. For a moment, I thought it was asking me to do the thing where it's like, hey, use the Flight Master to go somewhere else, delivers that, and then use it to fly back. So I was wrong. My bad. Okay, so I think this is a good time to go ahead and stop and continue later. My throat's starting to get a little sore, so I'm going to probably call it for the day, and we will continue some other time. Stay tuned.